Is your child 3 to 6 years or even older and still not talking? Have you gotten a referral to do speech therapy after a few months or even years? There is still no progress? Well, if you have answered yes to these two questions, then this video is for you. Stay tuned. Thank you once again for joining us in this another episode of Living on the Autistic Edge. Today, I will be sharing with you how I found out whether or not my child was ready for speech therapy. And guess what? Come right along with me because you can find out too whether or not your child is ready for speech therapy. Every child goes through different stages of development, and there are different areas in the developmental stages as well. For most parents, your pediatrician should have given you a developmental chart, and this chart is a guide that shows you what the child should be doing at each stages in their growth. Now, there are so many charts on Google, and there is one that I find, and I like it because it's colorful. I am someone who likes to play around with colors. Within 0 to 6 months, your child should be copying sounds, be able to respond to his or her own name, and not respond with speech but gestures. So if you should say the child name, they should be looking in your direction or so. Within 0 to 6 months, they should also be making short sounds like ooh, ah. It's referred to as babbling. Babbling is one of the things your child should be doing within the 0 to 6 month stage of his or her development. Above 6 months to a year, you'll find that the child there would be copying gestures, doing simple instructions like bye, just waving goodbye. They should also at this time be saying or trying to formulate mama or dada. For most parents, they will tell you that one of the child's first words is always daddy. And yes, for Alexander, his first organized word was daddy. And of course, I wasn't jealous. All right, now going on to the 18 months threshold, you should find they should be saying like single words by this time, and they should also be pointing. You should see those pointing gestures. Or 2 going on to 4 years, you will see that they should be saying simple sentences, and these sentences might be around about 2 to 3 words and counting. And remember that the developmental chart is just a guide because every child develops differently. Some will do quicker than some, and some will be a little bit slow coming out of the block. 1 to 2 years is when parents normally get a little bit concerned or even overly concerned that their child are not doing some things. You get to 2 years, the child is still not babbling, and those are some signs there of it could be speech delay, it could be autism. Around about this time, we would identify some developmental delays, and of course, any concerns, you should be discussing it with your doctor. Is your child ready for speech therapy? That's our $1 million question. So we just look at the developmental chart. You may find that your child is going to speech therapy, or you may find that your child have started speech therapy. You may be doing this for months now, you may be doing this for even years, and you may still have not gotten any results. We started speech therapy for Alexander around about 3 going 4 years of it. Alex was in speech therapy for nearly 2 years, and we still didn't get any progress. It takes us quite a very long time to recognize that really and truly he was not ready for speech therapy. And I'll tell you why. There were some things that we discovered that should be happening before speech actually comes about. And as I show you on the development chart just now, a few of them were one, making sounds. Now, Alex was able to make sounds. He would make a lot of sounds, and sometimes you'll hear him singing, and you may not hear the words coming out, but that tune would have been there to tell you, hey, that's the song. So he would be like humming. It was more like humming the song, but the real words were not coming out, but because of the tune, you know what it was. So you get that sound. Now, one of the things we discovered he was not doing, he was not babbling. So between the ages of 0 to 6, he should have been doing that da da ba ba and those little sounds. He wasn't doing that any at all. Now, so if your child is not doing that, there's a possibility that the child is not ready for speech therapy. All right. Now, imitations. The child should be able to imitate. So if you give them simple instructions like clap your hands, they should be able to do things after you, imitate little things or gestures that you would have indicated for them to do. They need to be able to do that. Now, because in speech therapy, it's going to be about giving instruction and receiving instruction. On the developmental chart, you should realize that by the time they get to 1, you should be able to say, take off your shoes, give me the brush, and those simple instructions. Now, if they are not able to follow simple instructions, they will not be able to work with the therapist when the therapist will be giving these instructions or other instructions in terms of what is required for speech therapy. Number 4, they must also be able to show some amount of understanding, simple gestures like hi, bye, pointing. So they must show some amount of understanding. And showing understanding is where you test their receptive language. So they must develop some amount of receptive language, because if the receptive language is really not up to par, they won't be able to take the instruction or even process the instruction or understand the instructions that will be given to them at speech therapy. A number of children on the spectrum also have ADHD, what we refer to as attention deficit disorder. If the child is not able to sit beyond 5-10 minutes, then the child is not ready for speech therapy. Because in speech therapy, the therapist is going to need the child's attention to be so the receptive language will be working, and when you process that information and for them to show they understand the instruction given to them by the speech therapy, they must be able to demonstrate that. No, but if the child is not able to sit or cooperate, this is going to make the speech therapy sessions very difficult, and you'll find parents, we know that these sessions are so expensive, so what you'll find, you'll be wasting money on sessions that are really not meaningful, because you may find that your therapist may be spending 15 minutes running or chasing around the room after the child, trying to get them to be settled. So if there are issues with attention span, we may need to work on that area before you start speech therapy. And for some of the speech therapists, they may be able to work along with you on that area, or they'll be able to make some recommendations. But pay attention to these signs, because if you go to speech therapy and you find that these things are not happening, then it might be a little waste of money. If your child is not connecting with your therapist, then there goes another challenge. Because if the therapist is not able to get the child attention, if they're not able to bond, they won't get far with the therapy sessions. What you'll find is that there are some parents that will go to speech therapy sessions and they will tell you that for the first 2 or 3 sessions, all the therapist is doing is playing with their child. And some parents are concerned about that. But can I tell you something? Playing with your child is necessary for the speech therapist, because they have to form their own connection and their own bond with your child before they can work with your child effectively. Another thing is the child must be able to take turns. They must understand the instruction of my turn, your turn. There are various activities that can be used to build some of these skills, but your child must be able to take turns. And Guess what, parents? One of the biggest things that I'm going to tell you now as to whether or not your child is ready for speech therapy. Are you really ready to hear this last one? This last one is a very tough one. And you know what that is? As parents, we need to change our mindset. I pause on that one because this is a very serious one. What you find, a lot of times there are parents on the spectrum and they themselves are not ready for speech therapy. We can't leave everything for the speech therapy. Speech therapy sessions normally the average speech therapy sessions last for half an hour. I think that's what most of the therapists do, half an hour for their sessions. And you know, some parents, they have not yet accepted that, something is wrong with the child. Some parents have not yet accepted that they should be a part of the therapy sessions for their child. For some parents, we are stuck at the point where the child cannot speak. So he's 6, 8, 4, 5, or whatever age it is, and we are like, my child is not able to speak and I need some activities and all of that. But before you start any activities for your child, first you need to get an assessment done, and the assessment should tell you the areas of development. And as soon as you get those assessments done, along with your speech therapy, you should work through these areas to assess whether or not the child is ready for speech therapy. Or you may have to do a few ABA sessions, or you may have to do some ABA therapy along with your speech therapy to bring out some of the other skill areas that we have mentioned. So just to do a little recap to make sure that you have captured all the areas. Your child should be babbling or making sounds first. Number 2, imitation. They should be able to do imitation. The child must be able to follow simple instructions. Number 4, the child must show understanding in simple gestures, hi, bye. Number 5, the child should have developed some attention span. They should be able to sit for at least 15 minutes to a minimum of 30 minutes before they are able to start speech therapy. Number 6, the child must create a bond or a connection with the therapist for the session to be effective. Number 7, the child should be able to take turns or understand the simple instructions of taking turns. And parents need to be involved, so we must change our mindset and ready to work with our child. And if you have all these areas covered, then we are ready to roll onto some real speech therapy. Now, for a few more sessions, I will share with you some of the speech therapy techniques that we have used to gain this progress that we have had with Alexavier. Thank you so much once again for joining us on this another episode of Living on the Autistic Edge. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.